Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me and my guest, Irene Furr, as we come together again this week. So happy to have Irene here again. If you were able to join us last week, or even if you weren't, just a reminder, we talked about orgasmic meditation as a path for women to open up their sexuality. And tonight, we're going to be exploring how both men and women can feel their deepest desires and connect deeply with a partner through this practice. So I'm going to start off by telling you just a little bit about myself and Irene in case you weren't able to join us last week, and then we'll get right to it. Also, as a reminder, we're going to be taking questions at the end of the show, so be sure to jot down anything that comes to mind as we're going along, as there'll be an opportunity for you to share with us down the line. So for those of you who don't know me, I am a sexual abuse recovery coach. I work with survivors of childhood sexual abuse who are sick and tired of feeling broken and unfixable, and I help them really let go of the pain of sexual abuse and finally feel normal. And you can learn more about me by going to my website, rachelgrantcoaching.com. Now, my colleague and dear friend Irene Furr is a coach and a fierce champion of women owning our femininity and sexuality and igniting the world with our power and leadership. She works with savvy, progressive, high-achieving women to connect to their wild, passionate, and powerful selves by opening up their sexuality and accessing the confidence to express themselves fully and ask for what they truly want. She also works with men to help them gain confidence to approach turned-on, self-actualized women and connect with them deeply. She's a sexuality coach and trainer of orgasmic meditation. And we are so excited to have the men and the women with us tonight. And you can go to irenefur.com to learn more about her. And I'll be saying that again throughout the night. So Irene, come on, join me. How are you tonight? Welcome. Happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's so awesome to be here second week in a row, and I had so much fun last time, and I'm just so excited for tonight's call as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We learned a lot. I learned a lot. We had lots of wonderful feedback, and I know some folks have been reaching out to you and asking questions and getting in contact, and so I'm really excited to add this extra layer in tonight of partnership and how this practice really helps us connect and can support both men and women in their journeys. So as I mentioned last week, you really talked about orgasmic meditation. Can you just refresh us a little bit about what OM is, and if we have some new people joining us, yeah, let's just start there.
Sure. And I'll give some context about how I came to this practice, too, for people who didn't join last week, so that you kind of get a sense of where I came from and why this practice was so powerful for me. So I came to OM in a very kind of interesting way. I came from an overachieving, result-oriented, practical background, and an immigrant child, so everything was measured and calculated and practical, in one word. And there was little space for me in my past life to be a woman in that environment. I made a lot of things happen for myself, worked really hard, and I took on that overachiever mindset into sex, which meant I had to perform a certain way. There were certain criteria by which I would be judged, and that I had to do it really well. And I have to say that it did not work so well. My life looked pretty good on the outside, perfect on the outside, and I was perfectly miserable inside. And in my sex life, I just could not hide it. It was possible hiding it with work or friends, but really in the bedroom is where I could not hide how miserable I was, how much of an underperformer or an underachiever I felt for various reasons. I didn't have much experience. I had problems climaxing, and so that really made me feel like a failure. And in that I started withdrawing, and in the withdrawal, I started losing my fire and my energy. This life just got harder. It was like grinding gears without any lubrication whatsoever. Just everything was difficult and hard. And I got to a point a couple of years ago where I was so numb and so barely moving. And at that point, my coaches, I started working with a coach, and they would ask me, what do you want in your life? And I couldn't access that question. It was, my mind could figure out what I should be doing, but my body was just, nope, I don't know what I want anymore. Mm-hmm. And that was a scary place to be in. And so I found OM when I embarked on a journey of self-exploration that really started with this very desperate point of, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want, I can't feel my body. And I came to OM as a way to fix, quote unquote, my sex life. But it ended up, and OM, by the way, stands for orgasmic meditation. I'm so used to saying it that I sometimes forget to mention it for newbies in this. So I ended up finding that OM became a path for me to personal empowerment like nothing else. And I began to feel my body, my desires, my purpose, and I started seeing my relationships change completely. Everything changed when I started working on my sexuality, which then led me to really go deep into this at the personal level, as well as train to be a sexuality coach. And now I am incredibly passionate about helping men and women, and especially women, to access our sexuality as the path to empowerment, getting connected to our bodies, to our intuition, to our our psyche is so connected to our sexuality, and I learned that from my own experience, and I'm on a mission to help women access that power through that.
Absolutely.
So, of course, you're wondering that the new people on the call of what is orgasmic meditation, and it's a 15-minute partnered sexuality practice where there's a strokee, a woman, and a stroker, typically a man. And during the 15 minutes of the practice, the stroker strokes the 1 o'clock spot of the clitoris. Why 1 o'clock spot? Because it has 6,000 plus nerve endings, more than in a man's penis, more than anywhere else in our bodies. It's that sensitive. In this practice, both partners are closed, except of course her bottoms are off. There's a timer, lube, a nest of pillows where this is happening, and gloves. There's no other touching, no reciprocation required, meaning after she gets stroked, she does not have to do anything for the man as part of the practice. She can if she wants to, but it definitely is not part of the practice. The woman gets to ask for adjustments to help the stroker get precisely on the spot where there's most sensation. Otherwise, there's nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just focus on her body and on her stroker, just on his energy for 15 minutes. At the end of the 15 minutes, each partner shares a frame, which is just a snapshot of a moment they experienced during an OM. And it's a snapshot specifically of sensations, what each of them experienced during the OM. And that's one of the main points of connection to at least verbal connection. And, you might be asking, whoa, that's a lot of rules for a sexuality practice. And, right, and these are just the basic ones. There are a couple of more that I just left out for practical reasons. And there's a reason why there's so many rules and agreements between partners, because we want to differentiate this practice from sex or sexual play, which traditionally comes with expectations, conditioning, and often trauma of negative experiences, of experiences where boundaries were crossed or pain was inflicted. And also that traditional model comes with reciprocity. And there's a lot of fear in women around reciprocity? Do I have to do something for him even if I don't want to? Do I have to go further than I want to? So
Right.
all of that is removed in this practice. And that creates a safety container for the woman, for her to explore her sexuality, to deepen connection, or to learn how to connect differently outside of, again, the kind of traditional model of sex that we know. And that safety is super important for women because that safety allows us to relax and open our bodies to allow orgasm to flow. And I want to emphasize the word flow here. We want natural flow of sensation as opposed to making sensation happen or doing something to the body to evoke sensation.
Mm-hmm.
It's opposed to forcing sensation out or doing something because of expectations or fear of hurting your partner's feelings. This is very much about that natural flow of a woman's turn-on. And in that flow, that's where desire begins to emerge on its own, naturally. And here I want to make an important distinction between climax and orgasm. So climax is what we traditionally think of orgasm. It's the release of sensation at a peak. There's a buildup of turn-on and then a release, and then it's over. Orgasm includes that climax. And orgasm is so much more. It's the entire process of turning on, from feeling heat in your body, maybe your cheeks getting hotter, a quickened heartbeat, maybe a pulsation in your pussy, engorgement, to a prolonged wave of pleasure in the body. Every point in this process is what I call orgasm here. And it has broader scope, and then it also encompasses more, which removes a lot of pressure from women needing to climax in a certain way to make sex successful in our model.
Right. I love that.
And so climax is not the goal here. If there is any goal, and I'll speak in a bit about this practice being goalless, but if there is one goal in this practice, it's just about experiencing orgasm in your body, whatever that looks like.
Right.
If it's full climax, that's awesome. If it's some tingling in your toe, that's awesome too. Because whatever is happening in your body, we want to be able to celebrate feeling something in our bodies. And we don't want to judge it or label something like climax as good and a tingling in our toe as bad. We want to broaden what it means to be turned on.
One of the things that just came to mind as you're talking about that, Irene, was that laser focus that we almost bring to the bedroom of like there's one purpose, there's one end goal, and that is just basically to climax. And I love how broader things become when we allow for the entire experience to count and to matter. And even if you don't get to orgasm or climax, that, using your new term, climax, that it wasn't a waste. It's not like you were wasting your time. It's not like you didn't achieve something or that you did something wrong. I love that. That creates so much more like breath and freedom, I think, for people.
Absolutely. And that freedom, a lot of it is removing that performance anxiety that we all feel, and it's on both sides. For women, it's the pressure to climax, otherwise she feels like she's broken and not good enough as a woman, which is very much what I experienced. And so that takes her out of the experience. And then for him, that performance too is like, well, if she's not getting off, she's not climaxing, then I'm not doing something right. And that, disconnects him from the experience.
Right.
And so, yeah, that really shuts it down for both partners. And and like you said exactly, it's like, oh, well, that must have been just a waste of time. And
Yes.
And that's really that's a really it's a sad state of affairs where we see human connection if there is no goal that we've reached, to just see it as a wasted experience.
Yeah,
So
I
this
agree.
is very much about retraining our minds, and goallessness is one of these uh, philosophical tenets of the practice. We remove the goal of climax, then she doesn't have to perform. He doesn't have to try to get her off, and they're just there for each other, for that experience, for connection, and they just are with each other, and that counts as an amazing experience of being present with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Another important element is attention. When you remove the goal and when you slow down and pay attention to what is in front of you, you can really see another human being. And we get to really see what is happening to them and who they are. And also the same thing, that slowing down and attention allows each of the partners to feel their own bodies and to connect to their own deeper selves, which we don't get to do when we don't put attention on it, when we're rushing and moving around.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then, of course,
so if you're on, I was just going to say, just for our timing, I was going to say, if you're on the line and you weren't able to join us last week, don't worry. I'm going to be sending you the recording, and I think you were about to say, Irene, the last element was simplicity. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So definitely, I'm going to be sending out that recording. So tune into that, and you'll get the full picture of what this whole practice is. And thanks for kind of refreshing our memory there, Irene. And I want to kind of turn now, if it's okay with you, just to today's topic of how men can support women in this journey of opening up. I'm sure, a lot of men are curious, like, what's in it for them? Because 15 minutes is a long time. I got things to do, whatever the case may be. But, yeah, talk to us a little bit about, the men and what's up for them.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I get that question all the time. And, indeed, it is a practice that is about the woman and is based on the model of female orgasm. And so it's totally natural to have that question, wait a second, what do the men get here?
Mm-hmm.
And first I just want to differentiate the different orgasm models, meaning that, a male orgasm model, and this is a generalization, of course, is kind of, there's this linear ascent of sensation and a sharp vertical drop at the end, which is the climax. And that's just, again, a very generalized summary of how men's turn on builds up and gets released. And unlike that, the female orgasm model is flowing and undulating, and it's goalless and it's unpredictable, and it may pause and restart, and it needs variety, and needs all sorts of things. And there's absolutely no rhyme or reason to it, no logic. Yeah. And this is something that men have such a hard time with. Mm-hmm. They don't understand women, and they don't understand women's bodies. They don't understand why, what they did yesterday worked, and today they're doing exactly the same way, and it's not working.
We just need a plug-and-play system here.
Exactly. So men oftentimes think, I got it, look at that, it worked so well, right. And then tomorrow it doesn't work. And it baffles them, and they try harder, and they end up missing the actual connection with a woman as they're trying really hard. Mm-hmm. And so this practice is about, like I mentioned, removing the goal. Once you remove the goal, you don't have to try. You don't have to do anything. You're just there to stroke. And I want to make a clear distinction here. You're stroking for your own pleasure, meaning you're not stroking to get her off or make her come. You're stroking because there's something for you in the practice. The practice itself is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And slowing down and feeling the woman and, slowing it to a bare movement, like the pressure and speed you'd use to stroke your eyelids. And the clit is even more sensitive than that, but that's kind of the nearest approximation of a sensitive area. You want to be stroking so lightly and with no goal. And this does fuck with men's conditioning.
Right,
And
right.
it totally turns things upside down. And it's a practice where men learn to really deeply connect with a woman. And frankly, I don't know many men who don't want that.
Yeah.
That's what the benefit is and what men get out of this practice. And I know there's a bit of disbelief too, like, oh, well, okay, well, if I stroke her clit and she doesn't come, what's the benefit there?
Mm-hmm.
You can actually, when you slow down, can feel her life beat, her life force through her clit. Like I mentioned, there's 6,000 plus nerve endings in that tiny little spot. And when you slow down, you get to really feel her. And the lighter the pressure, the greater the tension on her body, the more you can be attuned to her and her rhythm and her life force, and the more you can actually learn how to play her like a music instrument. Like when you're watching videos of Jimi Hendrix or something and he's playing the guitar, I mean, he is so into it, and he's obviously not reading notes. He's not following a formula. He is so into it, and he's doing it literally like from his inner being. Mm-hmm. And that's what Om allows you to do.
Mm.
And there's another really...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, it's really making me wonder, like, what men have said specifically. Like, what feedback have you gotten from men about the difference that it's made for them, or what they've learned about themselves or learned about their woman through this practice?
Oh, gosh. Oh, there's so many things. One is how, one thing, men are just so surprised when they sit down and they look at a woman's pussy, even though this is men who've been sexually active all their lives, they realize they know nothing about a woman's anatomy. And they've never looked at her closely. And, everyone reports that it's such a humbling experience because, they think that because they had experience, that they're really experienced and know what they're doing, and then in this position it's like, whoa. And right away that experience penetrates to the deep heart of men.
Yeah.
And it gets past, there's something about the way this practice is designed that allows men to drop their egos and go deep into that feeling part of them. And as a woman, I know that that's amazing. It's such an amazing experience to experience a man when he's not trying to perform or impress, but when he, like, his deep emotional intensity comes out.
Right. Right. Beautiful.
And then men, the other thing is that men so deeply want to connect to women, so deeply, and they don't know how. And our culture doesn't teach men to connect to women. It teaches men to do women or to do onto women. But men are not taught how to deeply connect, yet it's something that they so deeply want. And to see that is just beautiful.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, this is an extremely intimate practice, and I can't help but understand that. Yeah, that each person is going to be impacted somehow. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that aspect of it, about the intimacy piece and what role intimacy plays in the whole exchange?
Absolutely. The way this practice is designed, it's designed to actually create intimacy. I mean, if you look at the element of slowing down so much and paying attention to each other, that already creates intimacy.
Right.
We're rushing around all the time, and we don't have that luxury. And here, for 15 minutes, you are each other's source of it, you are in each other's attention, which is amazing. And it's again, that's something that already creates intimacy. And in an OM, you get to bear it all. And I don't mean clothes-wise, because both partners are clothed. Of course, except the woman's bottoms. But it's that emotional nakedness. You cannot hide in an OM. And I wrote about this in the last blog that was published on your website, that when you get so close to another person and their attention is so attuned to you, you cannot hide.
Right.
You have to be super honest about your intentions and how much you're allowing of yourself to be seen, how much you're letting in. And you have to get your ego out of the way. And that's true for men and women. You have to get the parts of you that want to impress or not hurt their feelings or whatever other things other than feeling each other, that has to get out of the way. Because the body, in that kind of closeness and that kind of slowing down, you will feel the other person. The woman will feel if he's trying hard and his attention is on himself, she'll feel it.
Right.
And he will feel if she's holding back an adjustment and then growing resentful inside, because her body will shut down. And there's, in that closeness, there's a lot of energetic connection. And so it's bound to get intimate. And then there's, of course, the communication piece, which I haven't talked about before, which is all communication around OM is very straightforward. It's really about the bare minimum, like stripped down of extraneous details. That's the level at which we want to communicate around an OM. Asking for an OM, you do it like you're asking someone for tea. Would you like to OM? That's it. No floweriness, no need for a glass of wine beforehand. It's just about the practice. When you ask for adjustments, you want to ask something very specific, like, could you move a little bit to the left? Or could you stroke slightly lighter, with lighter pressure? And the same when you're sharing frames at the end of an OM, you want to be as precise as possible and as reflective of the actual sensation. And it could sound something like, there was a moment when you were stroking lightly up that I felt an electric jolt in my left leg. And notice that, like I said, it's a very clean way of speaking, meaning there's no value judgment here. It's very much about sensation, about direction, about exact intention, and that's really important. And this communication, again, creates that intimacy. It's not about judging or comparing or valuing. It's just about the raw experience. And that's really important because especially for women are very sensitive to judgment, even positive judgment, like being called pretty or beautiful, because we're just judged all the time for how we talk, how we look, how we act, how we take care, not take care, whatever we do, good, bad, ugly, perfect, we're always judged. And those judgments hit us right into the core, into our sexuality, and into our like whole being. And when a woman hears a judgment, she shuts down. Because even like a judgment like, oh, you look so pretty, it's like, well, why didn't you say I'm beautiful? So
We do that, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
And so here we want to be really clean on the communication.
Mm-hmm.
And for men, valley words such as it feels good or it doesn't feel good does not give them enough information to make any adjustments whatsoever because he doesn't know what feels good to you.
Right.
And so that creates performance anxiety. Again, like all these things remove us from the experience of experiencing each other. So we want to strip away value language, judgmental language, and any kind of judgment of each other and just really focus on sensation and on this kind of raw language.
Got it. Yeah, as you were sharing that, I thought, one of the techniques and one of the skills that I work with my clients a lot around is clear communication, is making clear requests. And certainly as a result of abuse, the person's voice so often becomes constricted, and just even the belief that they have the right and the freedom to ask for what they want. And I do believe that experience translates to women very broadly, whether abuse has been a part of their experience or not. And this practice of really sitting in a space where you can't get away by being vague and you can't hide, I think is such a powerful place for women to be able to go and practice tuning in to their voice, the choices that they have, noticing that they can make requests and ask for things and like the world doesn't end, nothing bad happens. I think that's just a really powerful aspect of this practice.
Yeah, and what this practice is, it is intense in the sense that the sensation is very high in an ohm around that the intimacy piece. Like I said, we're both naked. Both partners are really naked in this practice, and it's in that connection with the safety of all the rules of the container that you can learn to work through the high sensation and relearn how to ask for what you want. Relearn or learn for the first time. Learn to make adjustments. Learn to be with yourself while you're making these seemingly big requests of someone else. Right. Learn to sit with your own judgments of I am too much or I am too loud or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's it's one of the other reasons why this practice is so powerful is that in the real world, we often leave when it gets uncomfortable. And it's either physically leaving or we check out emotionally. But here, this is the place that for 15 minutes you learn how to stay with what is. As long as it's externally safe to do so, stay with your own high sensation.
Yes.
Of being so open and intimate and naked and allowing the emotions and sensations to move through you.
Right. So you've already touched on a lot of the wonderful benefits of this, and I know that this is a practice where it's between two people. What about the aspect of kind of needing to be coupled? If a man wants to do this but doesn't have a girlfriend, a wife, a partner, or if it's a lesbian couple or a gay couple, or like what are the configurations here? Like what all is involved? Can you just speak to some of the different circumstances that people might be in, and how this practice can, how they can access this even if they're not in a partnership?
Absolutely. So being coupled is not a requirement for this practice. You do not have to be in a relationship of some sort with someone. However, having a stroking partner is required. This practice cannot be done on your own as a woman. And that's really important. I mentioned that on the last call, is that it's really in connection with someone else that we get to learn how to ask for what we want. We get to, meaning women, and men as well, we get to learn about ourselves when we're challenged with another person and their stuff
Mm-hmm.
in this practice. So it is absolutely a coupled practice. In terms of configurations, this plugs into anything. It plugs into a monogamous relationship where the couple does this with each other. It plugs in for someone who's single. There is a community of OMers in the San Francisco Bay Area, in New York, in Los Angeles, in San Diego, in Austin. It's actually growing quite a bit as a practice all around the world, actually including
Mm-hmm.
London and Paris. So there is a way to find strokers in your area, or strokees, depending on who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of lesbian couples, absolutely. As long as the strokee has a clit, this practice works.
We're good to go.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
And the benefits are still the same. It's about intimacy and connection and learning about each other and each other's bodies, and that can be done absolutely in a lesbian couple. And also, this can be done for a gay couple with two males, where there is an OM for men, and the principles are the same, except you're stroking a cock, not a clit. And everything else is basically the same. And again, the goal is to connect to each other, to really feel each other. And this is different from, I want to be clear that even though a male OM exists, this is not a reciprocal model. It's still not a reciprocal model where if a woman gets stroked, then the man gets stroked. I want to differentiate that here.
Yeah, I got that.
And and I mentioned the community here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it is charging and scary to go and ask a stranger to OM. And it's also part of the practice in terms of expanding your outside of your comfort zone and learning to be confident in places where you may not be confident.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for that. And I think it's just really fascinating. And at the end of the day, my takeaway from that is there's so many great resources and opportunities that people can access and take advantage of, that they don't have to, be limited and talk themselves out of exploring this if they happen to be, it fits, like you said, it plugs into pretty much any life situation that's going on.
Absolutely.
Can you talk to us a little bit about kind of the distinguish for us? What are men? Kind of what's up for them in this practice? What are they doing? What are their focus, or just what's happening for the guys?
Could you say a little bit more about the question? I'm not sure
Oh, sorry, Irene. Yeah, just, in this interaction, the men are doing things to support the woman, and the woman is doing things to kind of give back to the man in a way. There's an exchange, even if there's not a reciprocation. There's an exchange going on. So what can men do along those lines of being a support? What are their I keep pointing why I keep saying this, because I don't want to say their goals because it's goalless, but it's like where is their attention? Where is their focus? What are they up to in the practice?
Got it. Yeah, so here's a couple of things that men can do to, and I also want to stay away from this is the men's role, and it's something that men really bring to the practice or contribute, which is, first one that comes to mind is slow down. Slow down your, I want to say slow down your intention, slow down your actual physical speed, slow down how much you want to make things happen, slow down your own intentions in your mind. Women's bodies move at a very different speed, and so first and foremost, allow that safety of the container by you slowing down, so that she can really relax within it. Mm-hmm. So slowing down, super important. I cannot emphasize that enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Another thing is, like you mentioned, there's no goal. So forget goal, forget agenda, drop the formula, and be there for the experience. Be there to be with her. And that's something that's just, and both men and women need to remind themselves that they're not in this practice for a goal. They're here to experience whatever comes up between them and in their own bodies. Mm. Another thing that's really important, another role, quote unquote, that men have in this practice, or strokers, which are typically men, is safe-porting the woman. And safe-porting is a term special to oming, which means that you tell her exactly what you will be doing before touching her. Mm. Always being one step ahead of her and letting her know what's about to happen, which is really important because it allows her to relax. It gives the vigilance center in a woman's brain, which is that part of our brains that are always tracking, am I okay? Is my body okay? Are my kids okay? Is everything done? Are we safe? Allowing that part of her brain to relax so that she knows when you're about to touch her, that you're about to touch her, and so that she can, there's nothing unexpected. And it's also, an opportunity for her to say yes to an offer, which women don't always get because we're always kind of resisting. The guy is making advances, and we're a yes or sometimes a no. And here it's about that opportunity. Like, let me say yes, and let me come forth to you rather than being imposed on. Right. And it's a very important thing for women to have that opportunity, as opposed to always constantly pushing away and saying, no, I don't want to do this.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Like that.
Another thing for men, can be really hard to understand, is that in an OM, you get to lead and you get to follow. And I know you have to suspend logic here because that makes no sense. It's a paradox. And it is something that happens in an OM where, and also in tango, that's another place where this happens, where you have to lead and follow at the same time. You're leading in that you're holding the space for her. You're inviting her body to surrender and to surrender in that place. Yes. And then you get to follow her orgasm and her sensation and completely surrender to that. So it's a paradox, and it's something to be played with. And
interesting.
It's and it's something that men really have to relearn from a very performance leading-oriented conditioning that they're brought up with. Another big piece, which I touched on before, is asking for adjustments and hearing adjustments, or just generally communication. So men or strokers can ask, would you like me to go lighter or with more pressure? Would you like me to go to the left? And so it's about men asking for direction and having to suspend their egos around that.
Oh, boy, because we know how they are about asking for directions.
Exactly.
We will drive for days before we pull over, as the stereotype goes.
Exactly. That joke is so based in reality. It's really hard for some men to ask for directions. And it's also hard for them to hear when someone is offering directions.
Right.
So another big piece is, suspending the ego and being able to hear adjustments from the woman. It's not about pride. It's about her actually helping the man to get on the spot of the most sensation. It's not about, it's not a judgment against him. So it's a place where men get a chance to look at where they get triggered and where their pride gets get stepped on.
Right, right.
So there's a lot of ways that men can support women here, and also a lot of places where men can really grow, expand, and look at how they interact with women and where the ego may get in the way of connecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a big piece, and this is true for both men and women in this practice, is respecting a no. Mm-hmm. And when she says no and when he says no in this practice, it is the final answer. And there's absolutely no space for cajoling or convincing or anything else. And that starts with a no to their request, would you like to own? Right. If it's a no, you say no thank you. And you can ask again, would you like to own tomorrow or would you like to own the next day? But it's that no in that moment is the final answer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's also really important for both, and especially men, to maintain your own no if she asks for anything that's not appropriate within the OM container. Mm-hmm. Such as, for example, can I take my top off during the OM? Right. He has to stand up for the rules of the practice to create safety that's so important for this intimacy and the connection. And so he has to stand in the no for both of them. And, of course, for her as well, she has to do the same if he asks for something, and also stand in for the tenets of the practice to keep it safe for both partners.
Irene, a question just came to mind for me. If a partner couple is practicing this at home, do you still recommend that the woman be mostly clothed?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another element of this is that an OM takes place on the floor. And I didn't talk about this, but there's a nest, meaning like a blanket on the floor and some pillows and a towel for her to lay on where this is happening. So we want to remove this practice outside of the bedroom, outside of traditional sex. Both partners are closed because, again, it's not sex, and it is about turning a lot of the concepts that we know about sex and a lot of the patterns that we've learned on their head so that we can really deeply connect with each other as opposed to do the things that we've only known to do.
Right.
Yeah, always done. Exactly.
So all of you folks who like to have sex on the floor and not in the bed, this is your opportunity to get in the bed. We'll switch it up for them.
For that, exactly. Vice versa.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Okay, got it. Thanks for answering that.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, and
so speaking of that, go ahead.
I wanted to mention also for women, again, their role, quote unquote, in this practice is, or some of the tips that I can give women around this practice is the thing you want to be doing in an OM, which is a meditative practice. It's about putting your attention on the point of contact between the stroker's finger and your clit, and also noticing what is going on in your body. Notice, notice, and notice. Notice what is happening. Notice where you're tight. Notice when you relax. Notice when you're trying to impress him. Notice where there is sensation in the body. This practice is about building awareness and building awareness of what's going on in your body and how orgasm is being activated in your body. Mm-hmm. And so that's really a critical thing, is notice, notice, notice. And while you're noticing, suspend judgment on yourself. So if you're noticing that you have sensation in your right toe, yet you're not, feeling particularly turned on, in the rest of the body, suspend judgment there. Mm-hmm. Celebrate the thing you're seeing as opposed to criticizing or judging what you're not seeing.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And that's really important because we women, we judge ourselves so harshly. We're our worst critic. And this is a space to notice that you do that and then also let go of that judgment and be in approval of whatever comes up.
Yeah. Nice.
So,
Very good. Now, you've mentioned this as a practice and certainly an exchange. Is there like any exercise or activity that we would do? Is there hey, that's too much or too little, or what do you recommend as far as how often somebody should be oming?
I'm laughing at the is it too much? How much is too much? At least for me, too much is never enough.
You're gonna go blind.
There's definitely a point of saturation that happens, and I have to say that it takes quite a bit of practice to get to that point, and I mean like several years of oming regularly to get to the point where you say, oh, I'm full. And it is very much a practice, just like yoga is a practice, just like flossing your teeth is a practice. You get no results if you do it once a year.
Right.
You don't get results if you do it once every 6 months. You barely get results if you do it once a month. And if you do it regularly, that's where the results come. And, of course, no one comes to yoga doing it perfectly. You come in the state you're in, and you will not get it perfectly the first time. And you will fall. You will not maintain your postures correctly, and that's okay. And it's about being really gentle with yourself. And like any practice, it's about learning. It's about growing yourself within that container. And it's kind of like, I think of Om as almost like a science experiment where the container and all the rules, it's like the control. It's the same every day. And then the variable in this experiment is our bodies.
Right.
And every Om is different. Even with the same person, every Om is different because that's the reality. Our bodies are moving, living, changing beings. We are different from moment to moment. And that's one of the biggest learnings for me was accepting that and learning about that.
Right.
And so because it's a practice, I highly encourage doing it on a regular basis, starting out with 2-3 ohms a week and going to once a day or even several ohms a day.
Nice.
And doing it as a regular practice. And the 15-minute container is really easy to squeeze into a busy schedule. Doing it in the mornings or in the evenings. I love it in the mornings because it just really sets the rest of my day up with a lot of energy, a lot of turn on. That's a good way to
start the day.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I gave up coffee and any kind of caffeine thanks to this practice because it built up so much energy in my body that I don't need caffeine. It actually takes me over to the point of being like overstimulated and too jittery. But yeah, I gave up caffeine thanks to this practice.
Wow. Awesome. So, I know a lot of people on the call are curious about, yes, this is a great practice, or at least this thought has come to my mind. Good, this is a great practice. It's not sex. It's sexuality. It's getting in touch with your body, creating a space where you can use your voice and build confidence. But at the end of the day, I want to have good sex. And so I want the whole enchilada. And so I'm just wondering, how is sex affected when people practice orgasmic meditation? When they do get off the floor and go to the bedroom, what do you notice happens?
Oh my God, it's such a huge shift. What I experienced is, well, let me step back a little bit and say that I don't think it's a shock to anyone to hear that both men and women want intimacy with their partners. Whether they're partnered or not, in a relationship or not, it's our core need and desire to feel intimate with someone, and we all want to be gotten and met by another person and seen as who we are. And that piece to me in my old sex life and, what I'll call the traditional sex life of most people is that element is missing because, like I talked about before, it's so goal-oriented. And like you mentioned, if one of the partners or both partners don't reach climax in a certain way, it feels like a failure. That disconnects us. That removes the intimacy from the experience. And, a traditional quote-unquote scenario of sex looks like this. She is really worried about her body image and is totally lost in her head, like thinking, like, is my stomach pudgy? I didn't shave today. What is he going to think? Is he going to marry me if, I don't climax today? She's in her head. He's in his head. How do I get her off? Am I going to be hard? Is there going to be another night without getting her off? What's wrong with me? So they're completely separated. And then what we know about women is that women get off from physical stimulation of our bodies, and especially genitals. And we don't get enough of that physical stimulation. Not enough touch on our bodies, not enough attention, not enough adjustment in speed and location to be really on the spot. Period, not enough time spent on us because the guy is in his head trying to figure out the mechanics of how to get us off.
Right.
And he's not actually, his attention is not on the woman. And most women are really afraid to say something because it will either hurt his feelings because they can see, oh my God, he's trying so
really
hard.
Cares. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they just don't feel safe enough in their relationship to say something. So that's the reason behind why women fake climax so much. Or they put attention on him instead. Okay, I'll just finish him off and we'll be done with this because this is not really enjoyable. If she's not thoroughly turned on, then sex is painful, unpleasant, or worse. And so, again, that disconnects her from the experience. It makes her withdraw. She's still hungry for that connection, that touch, and she goes for the vibrator. So it's like it's so much easier to get this done and over with, and I get what I need. But still, that nutrient that she needs, which is attention and touch, is missing. Yeah. And then for the men's side, what we know about men is that they get off being with a woman in pleasure. And that's why they try so hard to have her come and to feel that energy and turn on. And then women feel that pressure. Oh, he's trying so hard. They fake it. Men think they got what they wanted, but it's empty calories. It's like eating cardboard. Yeah, you may be filling up your stomach, but you're not getting the nutrients of that actual, what we call sympathetic turn on, feeling the woman's turn on, actual real turn on. So they think they got it. They didn't. They leave hungry. And then they go for porn.
Irene, this is absolutely fascinating. Like, you are blowing my mind. First of all, just the way that you just broke that down about what women, like what leads them to the vibrator and what leads them to porn. And I'm super curious that in your experience in working with men, would you say that by and large they know when we're faking it?
Well, that's a great question because there's a lot of things at play. They may know that she's faking it, but they may not want to admit that to themselves.
Yeah.
And some men may not know it because they're not attuned enough to her because there's so much in their head trying to make it happen that there is no way to know it. One thing I will say, and I hope all men are listening. There is a way, and women too, there is a way to know if she's faking it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you learn that through oming. When a woman is in orgasm, when she's fully turned on, and especially if she's climaxing, you will feel that in her pussy. You will feel that in the vaginal opening. There will be so much energy and pulsation. And
Right.
so that's, again, when you slow down and tune into her, you will know whether she's faking it or not.
Right. Right.
And this is also important for women to know, is that, again, you cannot hide.
Uh-huh.
It's to me, it was understanding that was almost like a realization of, wow, I really need to be able to ask for what I want to get my
Right.
pleasure, to do that I can't fake it, can't hide. And it's both scary and it's also freeing. That,
Well,
for me, was freeing, that I need to go do something for myself here.
absolutely. And what I'm hearing you say, like my takeaway from a lot of this is it's absolutely a disservice. Like we're not doing anybody any favors here by faking it and not being genuine about what our experience is.
Absolutely. You know, if we don't teach men how to be with women, or if a woman fakes with a man and doesn't teach him how to be with a woman, he thinks he's doing what he's supposed to do, and he takes that on to other women, and more women then gets dissatisfied. And no one is, you know, you're creating more and more distance between everyone,
Right.
and it is very much a disservice. And it is really important for women to help men, to teach them how to be with us. And it's our responsibility.
And so going back to that question of, you know, how this then translates into the bedroom when full intercourse is happening, it sounds like just those principles of being attuned, being paying attention, it just like amps everything up and it becomes more pleasurable, the whole experience.
Exactly. You know, remove the goal of climax, slow it down to the point where you can feel each other and you have connection, and that translates exactly to sex. The same thing with the communication piece, when you're really honest about what is going on in your body and your desires, and you ask for adjustments, you have intimacy. When you have that deep attention on each other, you can feel what the other body is actually doing. And you can also kind of pause and ask the other partner, well, what do you need, or what do you want in this moment, so that it becomes a connected act where both partners are really attuned to each other.
Yeah.
And you know what? When that happens, and when both partners are present and fully engaged with each other, it's just plain fun. You feel alive, you feel the sensations, you're having fun, you're really getting to know each other. I mean, I cannot imagine now sex any other way. Or, you know what, and the rest of my life any other way. Because all of these things translate into relationships, into how I see life.
Right, right.
When I'm not engaged or present, it's awful.
It's awful anywhere, in any aspect of your life. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So I want to give people an opportunity to get involved here. I do have some other thoughts and questions. There's always more that I want to know, Irene, but I want to just open the lines just in case there are people who've been listening who you have a burning question that you just want to get in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the Q&A. And so to join...
Yeah,
so
I
if
love
you have
questions.
Yes. So just as a reminder, this call is being recorded. So if you'd like your question edited from the recording, just state that as soon as you come on the line, and I'll take care of that for you. If you do raise your hand by pressing *6, I'll call on you by reading the last 4 digits of your phone number. And if you're just feeling a little bashful about getting on the line, or you're in a location where there's a lot of noise but you have a question, you can also text 650-283-5215. Again, it's 650-283-5215. Yeah, so *6, go ahead and press that in if you have a question, and we'll be hanging on the line for a little while longer. While we wait for questions, Irene, I know that people might be curious, well, this sounds really good, and I'd love to try this, and I'd love to try this with my partner, but I'm going to pause there because we do have a question. We'll come back to that question. So, all right, 0645. Go right ahead. You're on the line. Hello? Make sure your phone is not on mute. We're not able to hear you right now, so I'm going to go ahead and take you off the line, and you can text your question, or you can press again and see if we can make a connection. That's tricky sometimes. Okay. So
you had a question.
Yeah, so if oh, this sounds really great to me, and I'd like to get my partner involved in this, what is how can somebody start this conversation? Like walk up to your partner and be like, hey, we're going to go this place. I'm going to be half naked. You're going to touch me. Like, can you give some people some support and guidance and how they might, actually have this conversation with a partner?
Here's what I suggest to my clients. It's about setting an intention. This is an intimate practice, and it's a very intimate conversation, especially if you're introducing this to your partner in a coupled relationship, as well as to maybe someone you want to own with who is your friend, who may be surprised about this. Setting an intention for that intimacy is key. And what creates intimacy is speaking the truth about your desires and being really vulnerable in this place. So start your discussion with your partner with your desires and intentions for why you would want to own. And don't make a case for why you want it. Don't make it this logical, well-put case. Make it about your desire. Make it very feeling-based. Tune into your own deeper desires and your curiosity about this and about your own sexuality and why you want to do this. And that is tied to vulnerability. Be really vulnerable about what you really want, and then also speak about what terrifies you and concerns you about this.
Right.
So that your partner, especially your partner, but again, maybe a friend with whom you want to do this, they really understand where you're coming from. And again, it's a vulnerable, intimate conversation, and so going in prepared to be vulnerable and intimate is really important. And of course, notice where you're holding back because of fears, maybe not wanting to hurt someone or fearing their rejection. And listen to your gut feeling and listen to that desire particularly, because something like this, it's a sexuality, this subject has a lot of charge. And so desires to change things around sex and sexuality also have a lot of fear associated with it. So just be mindful about it, notice what's happening, and really tune in to what you really want versus the fears that are really holding you back.
Perfect. Thank you. That's really helpful. Okay, we're going to try our question again. Our person on the line,
All right.
0645. So I think you're on. Can we hear you now?
Yes. Hi, Rachel.
Oh, hello. Hi, Crystal.
How are you? You know my voice now.
I do know your voice now. I'm your fan. I'm your fan.
I'm enjoying this. I have a question though. Irene mentioned earlier in the session. She said, I think you were talking about the 15-minute stroker, and you said something about typically the man is the stroker. I'm wondering for myself, and I'm sure some other women too, if the woman is wanting to be the stroker, can Irene give me some tips on what, especially a woman who maybe has been, afraid to initiate sex just normally, but now she wants to, she is wanting to do that. Some tips as to how she can move forward in that. Some things she could say or do.
Hi, Crystal. I want to. Could I ask you a couple of just clarifying questions because I'm not sure I understood I understood your question.
Okay.
So when you say if a woman wants to initiate sex or wants to be the stroker, do you mean that she would be initiating sex or stroking with another woman or with a man?
With a man, male-female relationship, but she wants to do the stroking. Because I was wondering, is that something that you see a lot, where the woman is actually wanting to do that as well, rather than allowing the man to, to do the 15-minute stroking?
Got it. So, like I mentioned, there is a male version of the OM where it's basically the same principles apply, where the man's penis gets stroked slowly and with the same intention. So for women who have never been stroked, there may be desire to stroke a man, and we really recommend that the woman fill up first on her pleasure. And of course, there are different ways that women come into this practice. Most come in really empty of that nourishment, that attention and touch on their bodies.
Right.
And so here I recommend that the woman fill up on that first. And really, this is quite a long process of at least a year of being regularly stroked before she goes to stroke a man. Of course, you can do it outside of the container and do it within the realm of your regular sex life, but as a practice, it's highly recommended, again, to fill up the woman first, to get her fully turned on, and then do this as a practice for the man, and then do both.
Okay. So that would be something that if she wanted to do that, would be outside of that container then?
Yes, exactly.
Great. Okay. That's all I had for now.
Awesome. Great
Thank you for your question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to you again soon.
Thank you,
So,
Kristen.
Irene, I know that you do a lot of amazing work, one-on-one work with both men and women, and can you tell us a little bit more about that and how people can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So this is definitely a huge part of my work, working primarily with women and men to teach this practice and also use this practice to open up them to their full power, which again for me is deeply connected to our sexuality, both for women and men. My focus is on women because it's so repressed. It's so repressed in our society and through our conditioning. And so I want to continue giving support to your listeners on this journey and offer an opportunity to go deeper into this work, get training on the practice, and then also look at how this practice impacts all different areas of their lives and help them to help them get support that they need in feeling confident and feeling empowered to express their voice, ask for what they want in all realms of their life. And to break through the blockages of taking personal risks around connection and relationships. And so the next best step I recommend is signing up for my free 90-minute consultation call, Reignite Your Inner Fire and Sexual Connection with me, where we'll explore your desires, see what's stopping you from having them, from having for what you want, and to determine if OM or working with me is the next right step for you. So I want to offer this free session to the first 5 people to email me at ignitedwoman@gmail.com, and I will respond to you immediately and send you a way to sign up for a session. And there's no obligation to sign up, and I want to give this session out for free to help people really tap into what they're wanting in their lives and what is opening up for them.
Absolutely.
And of course,
awesome.
Everyone can check out my website, irenefair@gmail. That's right. www.irenefair, IRENEF as in Frank, EHR.com.
Awesome. And yes, please excuse my country pronunciation of your name. I always say fur. So, folks, just in case you didn't get it, ignitedwoman@gmail.com, and take Irene up on this offer. I know folks from last week's call have already had an opportunity to work with her and have had amazing, wonderful breakthroughs. So really, if anything that's going on right now where you're hesitating and thinking, oh, I'm not sure, yeah, just put that stuff in the closet and sign up. Get in touch with her. Really, you will not be disappointed from spending that time, that hour with her. Be great takeaways. And if you're on the line with us here, we are still happy to answer questions. We're going to hang out for a little bit longer. Again, you can press *6 on your phone and then press 1, or you can text 650-283-5215. We have another question.
Great.
0645. Hi, Crystal. What? You thought of something else?
Yes, it's something else again. I'm listening. I'm really, I see a lot of things in here. I can't help but come from the context of, I guess, sexual abuse or sexually abused women. And I'm seeing this OM practice is a really good thing for women who have even gone through abuse so many different places, such as the, removing the goal and entering into this practice for your own pleasure. I like that part. But I got a major question here, because coming from that context, I'm wondering, a lot of women, I can't help but speak for women. I'm a woman. I guess that's where I'm coming from. But a lot of women have issues with face-to-face contact or that verbal connection you were talking about. Can you give me some tips as to what kind of things can a woman do who is doing an OM practice but is wanting to, but having a problem with verbally letting her partner know what she's wanting or what she's needing? Because the face-to-face or the verbal connection has always been, kind of screwy or messed up because of maybe the abuse. And maybe simply, typically, some women are shy with that in that part anyway.
Yeah, that's a great question, and this is where support from a coach like myself is very critical. This practice is meant to help women change their patterns and get through the blockages. We don't want to actually further their shyness or their inability to say something. So this is where, again, that support is critical. And what I do with clients is that I guide their own. So they're there with their partner, and I am there present with them, helping them ask for adjustments, ask for what they want, and build up their voice. It's like a muscle. You start with atrophy, and then you start exercising it little by little, and then it builds up. So in that kind of scenario, I highly recommend working with a coach around this and, like I said, building up that muscle.
Okay, so it wouldn't be something that the couple would jump into. They definitely would need coaching. First,
Coaching and training, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, because it's, thank you as well. Thank you for the question.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Awesome. That's good, though. So, Irene, I just want to take this moment to thank you. I certainly have learned aplenty over these past two sessions, and am just really walking away with a profound appreciation for you and for your willingness to take on topics and subjects that people might feel a little shy about or uncomfortable with. And, you know, your confidence and your courage is just, I'm just super present to that. And also your skill and perspective that you bring to this area that is so profoundly important in our lives. You know, we are sexual people. We want connection, intimacy, touch, all of those things. We need and crave that. And to go without it sucks. to use a technical term, it sucks. And so, you know, I hope everyone who's been listening has really been as touched and as supported and as helped as I have. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact Irene or myself. We will be happy to continue to support you and field questions and point you in the right direction to the right resources if, for whatever reason, you know, you need something beyond what we offer. So don't hesitate to go to her website, irenefehr.com, IRENEFEHR.com. You can also visit me at rachelgrantcoaching.com. So Irene, just any final thoughts, anything you'd like to send us off with today?
I want to extend a thank you to you as well, Rachel, and say that I'm just so honored to be here and to present this. And I'm so passionate about this mission and really our mission to bring freedom sexual freedom to people, people who have been abused, whether it's emotionally or physically, and bring them this freedom. And I'm just so honored to be part of this and so grateful and love the experience here. So thank you. And thank you to the people who attended these calls for your willingness and curiosity to be open to this, to learn and to expand your own horizons and your own comfort zone. So thank you. I'm just really honored, humbled, and extremely happy.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to take everybody off mute so that you can now say goodbye if you would like to. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Irene.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
That's awesome. Take care, everyone.